Okay, so welcome everyone to the Pursuing Intentional Learning and Organizations Together project. This 4-week series is sponsored by MSU's Graduate School and the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. Today's session is titled Job Search and Application Strategies, Guiding Your Non-Academic Career Path. We are excited to feature and engage in a discussion with today's speakers. My name is Janetta Mulkey-Hill. I am the Graduate Student Coordinator for the series, and I will be facilitating each session. So for some context, the pilot project aims to bridge the gap between graduating students and non-academic professionals and provide graduate students with valuable insights and practical strategies for transitioning from academia to non-academic careers. If you haven't registered yet, you can use the QR code displayed on the following slides to register and receive emails about the sessions. Also, any materials that we have, I share in those emails in Google Drive. I will also add a link to the registration in the chat after the introduction. So the pilot project includes a series of virtual meetings held on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. from July 9th to August 1st via Zoom. Tuesdays feature guest speakers from MDARD on a specific topic for that week, and Thursdays are dedicated to an interactive workshop to help us apply what we've learned, develop practical skills, and support each other in our career transitions. As a reminder, please use the same Zoom link from today's session for Thursday's workshop. We are now in our final 2 weeks of the series. So this week's sessions focuses on conducting job searches and crafting a professional identity tailored to non-academic roles. And in our final week, we will focus on strategies for job interviews and optimizing networking for career growth. And then just one last thing before we get into our guest speakers. If you'd like to receive a certificate acknowledging your participation in the series and workshops, please let me know. To qualify for the certificate, you must attend at least 75% of the guest speaker sessions and workshops. If you just send me an email, I will add you to the list, and I will send a certificate after the completion of the series on August 1st. So now I'd like to introduce today's speakers. We are mixing it up a little bit this week. First, we have Megan Yerst, who is the Director of Career Development and Placement for the School of Human Resources and Labor Relations at MSU. And she will give a presentation on LinkedIn's alumni search tool. And then we will hand it over to our guest speakers from MDARD. We have Kaylee Schumacher, who you might recognize from our first week of the series. She is the communications manager for the animal industry division. And we also have Ashley Bettine, who is the recruitment, professional development, and DEI officer at MDARD. We are excited to have them with us today to share their insights and experiences. And thank you all for being here. Megan, do you mind if I pass it on to you?
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds good to me. And I just want to make sure I'm able to share my screen. Yeah. Okay. So let's go to this. Sorry, I've got multiple monitors here, so I'm kind of okay. Is everyone able to see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So I am going to talk about the LinkedIn alumni search tool. And like Janetta said, I'm the Director of Career Development and Placement for the School of Human Resources and Labor Relations. I'm also a double Spartan. So I did my undergrad and master's at Michigan State. And are all of the participants here Michigan State students, or are we from different schools as well?
I believe we're all from Michigan State.
Perfect. Awesome. All Spartan. That works out perfectly for this. So, did the slide change for you guys?
It didn't. We're still on the first slide.
Okay, noted. So then I am going to, oh, cool. Okay. Good news. We found it. So, within LinkedIn, I know a lot of people are usually familiar with LinkedIn, and They have a profile, maybe sometimes post, but that's not all that LinkedIn can do. So, my favorite LinkedIn tool is the alumni search tool. And how you're going to use that is, since you're all MSU alums, you're going to go to the Michigan State University LinkedIn page and click on the alumni tab. And I will send out this slide deck after this as well, so everyone has it. And so after you go to the alumni tab, you will be able to explore based on like where they work, where they live. And the best part is that every single person listed in this list is an alum of Michigan State. So you're all fellow Spartans. You've already got one thing in common. And I think sometimes this presentation is better switched off to a demo, which I also have here. So I think we can still see this, hopefully. So right here, I have Michigan State University's LinkedIn page, and I clicked on alumni. So with this, I am going to search for, let's find someone who works at Ford. It'll be an MSU alum who works at Ford. And so we have 1,693 to choose from, but let's narrow it down a little bit more. I'm a little biased because I'm in the HR-ish field, so I think I'm going to pick human resources. And look at that, we've got 87 alumni who graduated from Michigan State University and currently work in human resources at Ford. So if I were looking for a job and I thought that Ford was really, really cool, those are super, super valuable connections that I can leverage in order to get my foot in the door. So we've got all of these people, and we can look, let's look at Courtney. She's a really good example. So you can explore everyone's profile based on where they've been, what their career progression is. And so with this, you can see Courtney is a perfect example because she does have a PhD from MSU. Let's scroll down to the education section just to dig in a little bit more to that. Looks like she's got psych bachelor's degree, and then she did the organizational psychology PhD program here at MSU. And this might be kind of a cheater example because I do know her. I worked in her lab, but she's excellent. So if anyone does want to reach out to her, feel free. And so then we can also look at her experience and see how did she get to where she is today, which is Ford, as we know from the search tool. So if we go down to the bottom, looks like she has some internships, and specifically, this is pretty cool. She had an internship with the UAW and GM. So that's giving us a little hint. She started out in the auto industry, got some more HR internships, and some various roles. And then you see, oh, PhD intern, oops, apologies. PhD intern with Ford. So where did that go? So we can see she interned with them in talent analytics, and that seems to be how she got her foot in the door with Ford. So we can see she got some selection experience, and some data analysis, that sort of thing. And then looks like while she was finishing up her PhD, that's kind of her work there. And then after graduating with her PhD, she started off at Ford. She was a senior specialist of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Um, and what's really cool about that is like that's not the type of title that you would be able to start out as if you were, say, a bachelor's degree graduate or master's degree graduate. You would be starting a lot lower. So the fact that she got to start all the way up there is pretty cool. And you can also see that she's already had a promotion. So now not only is she a senior specialist, now she is the global DEI inclusion or DEI manager for Ford, which is huge. And so let's say we were wondering, like, oh my goodness, how in the world did you get there? Oh, also, she did a TED talk at MSU, which that is cool. But we can snoop around on her profile to get some clues as to not only like what she's done, but also how likely she might be to respond if we were to connect with her and reach out. So we can go to her activity. And so looks like she posted 5 days ago. So that's promising. But if you're not seeing posting activity, that's okay. I recommend looking at the reaction activity because that can sometimes be even more recent. And they're not always in like exact chronological order. So, but it does look like she's been on LinkedIn within the past week. So that's a good sign. So we're going to head back to our presentation and kind of go through that and see how we can reach out to her. So, okay, so there's our little search of Ford. Oh, I left out the location, but you can also search in the location. And not only can you search by just the terms that we searched by, you can also search by like level of connection. Like if you have a secondary LinkedIn connection with this alum, for example, or you can search filter based on like what they're skilled at, or like what their degree is, what year they graduated, all sorts of stuff. So then we explored the profile. And like I said, look through their experiences, snoop on everything, like nothing's off limits. And then connecting with them. So if you want to, you can add a note to your connection request to introduce yourself and say a little bit about why you're reaching out. It's kind of debated whether or not you get more traction with connection requests that do or don't have invitation like customization messages. So it's up to you. But if you do not like customize your invitation and send a little message along with it, be ready to send your intro message as soon as they accept your connection request. So also link or a note about the mobile app. So if you click on connect, it automatically sends a request and doesn't let you have the option to personalize it. So you kind of have to go in the little additional menu and personalize the invite if you'd like to do that. For the example message, this is just a quick example. So I'm an MSU student studying HR and labor relations, looking for an internship, super interested in Ford. I see you've been working there for a while, wondering if we can connect to discuss your experience at Ford and your role as an HR manager. So I tied in some pieces of this person's profile. And then I also tied in a cute little go green at the end for extra bonus points. And then we hope that they reply. And I typically see that the more you can like emphasize what you have in common with them and relate to them, the more likely they are to reply. So conversation starters that could be effective leads are like obviously MSU, areas of study, industry, position title, employer, undergrad, major, school, hometown, location, really anything that you can think of and anything that you pick up on while exploring their profile. And then just to wrap things up, some best practices for outreach. Make sure, like I said, personalize your message. The more personal it is, the less you sound like a robot who wants them to buy something, which is often what people receive when they get random LinkedIn messages. So you want to tell them that you're a real person, you have connections with them, you're interested in them, their life, their career journey, and remain professional. It's not off limits to ask if you can connect with like a phone meeting or Zoom meeting or something, or if they're local, meet for coffee. Just be respectful of their time. And don't like take their entire day or whatever. Obviously make sure to be very thankful that they're volunteering their time to help you. And then also, if you end up getting ghosted and you don't hear from someone that you reach out to, that's okay. They're not mad at you. They probably just aren't very active on LinkedIn, or they're just really busy. So if you don't hear back within like a week or two, feel free to send a polite follow-up. But also feel free to explore other alumni connection options as well, in case they just aren't available to connect. And that is all for me. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, but anyone have any last minute questions for me?
Yeah, feel free to put any questions in the chat, or you're welcome to unmute. I want to say thank you so much for your presentation. One of our guest speakers last week talked about how she's an MSU alum, and she mentioned how she used LinkedIn as a tool for like connecting with people who had careers that she wanted to like shadow or learn more about. And yeah, I loved how you kind of showed how to do this in a really like smart way. Specifically, like I didn't even think about using like looking at their reactions to see if they've been on recently. That's super smart. So thank you so
Yeah,
much.
for sure. Yeah, just got to be a great LinkedIn detective, and it's a lot more rewarding to put in the significant effort to go and reach out to people that are super relevant to you and your interests, rather than kind of just submitting resumes to a bunch of online like drop boxes and hoping something pans out.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Or,
targeted approaches are
getting
very
lost in their
helpful.
inbox. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
All right. Well, if we don't have any questions, thank you again, Megan, for presenting. And then we'll just move on to Ashley and Kayleen. We can't hear you, Ashley. I I can barely hear you. Can anyone else?
I can hear you a little bit.
Is that any better? Is that better? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes. All right. I changed some speaker settings. I don't know what happened, but okay. Bear with me here. I'm going to share a screen. Kayleen and I have set up a presentation. So just want to be able to share that and get it all settled. So just 1 second here. Okay. Are we all able to see this?
Yes.
Okay. I think we are in good shape. So hi everyone. Thank you for inviting us to be a part of this job search and application strategies piece today. My name is Ashley Bettine. I'm the Recruitment, Professional Development, and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for MDARD. And then Kayleen, I'll give you we'll do a quick introduction, but we also have slides that we do some deep dive into our introduction. So Kayleen, I'll hand it to you.
So my name is Kayleen Schumacher, and I am the communications representative for the Animal Industry Division of MDARD.
Yes. So we're gonna jump into some job search strategies, but really wanted to give a little bit of information about the Michigan's food and ag industry and the people that we support in the state. And so you can see just this slide kind of gives a teensy bit here. $30.6 billion of Michigan's economy is contributed by food processing just alone. And the food and ag industry employs nearly 95,000 people in the state. We do have over 2,181 licensed food processing facilities and food warehouses in Michigan, and our staff are responsible for inspecting and making sure that food supply is safe. That's just a small piece of what we do. We have over 90 programs with 8 divisions and 4 bureaus in our department. And so that's a little bit there. And then Kayleen could talk a little bit more about kind of where she's sitting at.
Yeah, so one of the interesting things about MDARD is that, it involves, the sphere of agriculture involves more than what you would initially think about. So for example, it's more than livestock animals. So there's also, companion animals and licensing animal shelters and aquaculture facilities and all of these things that go into not only my division, but also that broader idea of animal health as well as public health. Because while our division strives to protect animal health, it is pursuing that goal is also a part of a broader vision of what we call One Health, which is pretty much, healthy environment, healthy animals, healthy people.
So, and just to kind of jump off of that, I mean, this is MDARD's kind of main message is that we support food safety, human animal health, environmental sustainability, economic development. And then we are dedicated to DEI initiatives, extensive employee benefits, and various professional development safety training programs. And so this slide, I just wanted to throw in here because this is actually the slide we use for our recruiting piece. And just like we are sort of branding ourselves, MDARD as an employer out to you and others that are out there, a lot of the job search strategy piece comes into play when we're talking about your personal brand. So I threw all of that out there to then kind of showcase what this looks like, that personal brand. And I think that our last speaker did a really great job of talking through like LinkedIn and how you can see people's personal brands. And that's your first job search strategy, right? Is building this personal brand. And so you can see, this is actually my journey. I'm a 2008 graduate from Michigan State, go green. And I have the degrees in psychology and in Spanish. I graduated in 2008. That was a really tough time for a lot of people. There was a recession that happened. And a lot of us were told, there aren't really many jobs for you out there in the psychology space. That's why I do have 2 degrees. And so I was actually a college instructor and an advisor. I did tutoring. I did lots of stuff at Baker College for a while. And during that time, I earned my master's degree, mostly because I really wasn't sure what I was planning on doing with my career. I really didn't know what to do. Psychology was a very broad major, and maybe maybe many of you, the track for psychology was typically clinical, right? Like, and there was a very clear idea of what that looked like. And so I did look at that in terms of a route, but I really wasn't sure what to do. What you don't see behind my journey is that I also applied to the education college and I was denied. I don't actually don't really know why I was denied. But I was. I had all the qualifications for it. And so I was going to be a high school teacher, and that was a very clear track for me. But when I did not get accepted into the education school at MSU, I wasn't sure what to do, where to go with that. So what also you don't see on here is I applied to be a counselor, a school counselor at CMU. They have an awesome program there, and I had gotten in, and I just decided this is not what I wanted to do with my life. I was not sure what to do, but I knew that it wasn't clinical. I could tell that this was not something that I wanted to do. And so I ended up, the reason why I have a Spanish degree is because I actually ended up doing a study abroad. And I went to Ecuador and spent time there. And that was what I would say a very personal choice. I did not make that choice for a professional reason. I did not expect that this experience would push over into my my professional journey. But what I realized very quickly is that I learned more in that space than I think I could have in any other types of degrees. When I came back, I decided that I wanted to get my master's, and that's where you can see I have that industrial organizational psychology piece. And that was, again, another very personal choice. I didn't know if that would help me along in my career journey, but I knew that I wanted to get more education, and I knew I wanted it to be along the lines of helping people. And so industrial organization psychology, I knew that that was something that was very, it was non-clinical, but it was also in the space of helping organizations work with their people. And so with that, it was very clear to me that when a job came open at Michigan State to help people at what was then the Lear Career Center is now the Palmer Career Center in the Broad College of Business, I became an associate director of student development and employer relations. And so all of my experience led up to what was very, very interesting and funny for me was that I knew how to talk about building careers because I had not known so often what I was going to do. And I had done so much soul searching reflection and research on what was the best career track that I had a lot of experience in trying to figure out what was my next step. And so it took me 5 years outside of 2008 to get my full-time job because mostly because of the recession, right? But you can tell the way I tell my story that it was kind of in the space of that non-academic career. Like I didn't know how to be in a non-academic space, how to be non-clinical, I should say. And so I found it. And when I got that job, I knew this is where I should be. And I spent almost 7 years there. And then I moved over about 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago, moving on to 5 years into the recruitment, professional development, and DEI officer job, where I got the chance to build recruiting strategies and help people build their own brands at MDARD. And now we're here and talking to you today. So this is kind of an example of how you can build your journey and tell your story. And I am going to hand it over to Kayleen, who's going to do the same thing for you, kind of showcase her personal brand.
Yeah, so I kind of have a similar but different story. So I graduated from Saginaw Valley in 2007. So I had a bachelor's in English education as well as minors in psychology and geography. And at that point, I was pretty set to be on that kind of academic educational track. And I had actually kind of gotten, getting a master's degree was something that I figured that maybe I would circle back around to after I built up some job experience, but there wasn't a whole lot of jobs that were readily available outside of like, subbing or, something like that in a school system. And at the last minute, like just before I graduated, I was able to get a scholarship for, a graduate program. And I was able to apply that at CMU. So I was actually, just under the wire, got into graduate assistantship there. So actually I went from, kind of thinking that, my career path would be subbing for a little bit to actually teaching at the college level while also taking classes, at the graduate level. So, that was a little unexpected, but also at the same time, it really, helps to build up that resume as well as that skill set. And, they did a very good job in kind of like scaffolding things. So, you were able to, work on a syllabus as a group and build your curriculum and, talk about grading assignments and, all those sort of things, which were, very beneficial, just, kind of building up those professional skills. Once I graduated, again, we're coming out of the recession at that time. So again, opportunities were slim, although better than probably what they were in 2008. So for a while, I was doing the adjunct faculty as well as fixed term faculty thing. At first, I was at SVSU as well as Central Michigan. Also, while I was at SVSU, I was pretty close to some of my past professors. So I was able to latch onto some assistantships and things that they had through grants. So I kind of had a little bit of a side hustle going on at the same time. So that helped to kind of build up a separate set of like more communication-based skills. So not only was, I building, teaching skills on one side, but also communication skills on the other, and actually applying what I had learned through my degrees. So that overall was quite helpful. And I was also able to get a few other, positions, either like with working with local campaigns or, something like that. Again, kind of more or less in that communication sphere. So again, just kind of building up that skill set all around. And then after I was kind of working in both places for a little bit, I was able to get a little bit more consistent work at Central Michigan. So they were, I was a fixed term faculty there. I was getting 2 or 3 year contracts, but still at the same time, you always just, kind of had to, fight and make that argument for them to rehire you on the next year because, those contract terms were just so short. But after a while, I just, thought that there may be better opportunities at a larger university. So I became a fixed term faculty in the RAC department over here at MSU. And I was working there until I got my job as a communications representative. And even though I really like the academic sphere, just, always having to make sure that you are making that argument and showing that you are a good instructor and just always fighting for that next contract and to get like 1 more year or 2 more years, it becomes exhausting after you do that for about 13 years. So I had also built up a lot of those communication skills with some of those side jobs, as well as just, the fact that I, would teach people how to do the things, that I would do and the things that I would write. So that helped to kind of pivot me into this space of writing for my division. So even though I kind of went from teaching to what sounds like not teaching, I feel like I still am teaching a little bit because even though I am not teaching about like maybe thesis statements and essays and, you know, research strategies and things like that, what I am doing is teaching people about, you know, animal health and biosecurity and, you know, the processes for various things. So I feel like I've just kind of switched topics more than anything. So it has been a surprisingly interesting pivot, but one that was fairly easy to do because I found something that matched my skills, which I can kind of go into a little bit more in some of the next few slides. But Ashley, I will pivot it back to you. You are on mute.
Sorry, this time for real. Hopefully you can hear me. I was just on mute. Thank you, Kaylee. I love these slides. I love being able to tell the stories because it can showcase like the different skill sets.
Ashley, I hate to interrupt you, but you sound like you're in a tin can again. So can you check your speakers?
Let's see. Last time I switched to this speaker. Oh. How's that? Did that work?
Perfect.
Oh, I have no idea. I'm just switching back and forth. I don't know. All right, we're here for it. Okay, so I'll start again. I love those slides because I do think that they showcase like a brand, and that is really number one. You have to know yourself and you have to know kind of where you're at, and you have to be willing and able to tell that story. I really love Kayleen too had talked a lot about like the side hustles. I was right there with the side hustles with you, Kayleen. Like what I didn't mention is the whole time that I was looking for a full-time job, those 5 years, I had like 3 part-time jobs, right? And I was just like building the skill sets. I had so many different experiences, and that is being able to talk about that is important. And so this slide right here, it shows MDARD. So we're kind of jumping back to MDARD's value slide. And I really like this because it showcases what employers are looking for, and it showcases how employers are kind of building their values out. When you see an employer who has a value-based brand, which is MDARD does, that can be a great lift for you to align your values and your story and your brand with theirs. And so this is just a quick example of MDARD's brand. You can see education, passion, inclusion, partnership, safety, and excellence are all part of our values. And, you know, we talk about that a lot as we are out talking about MDARD. And so, Kayleen, well, no, I think this is still my slide, isn't it? I have to move my little Zoom guy over here. So, really, when you look at research, when you're researching company values, align it with what you're passionate about. I really liked MDARD's values, and I could hear that a lot of the times. Kayleen had said it; she feels like she still educates, and really we hear this term a lot at MDARD called educate before regulate, because our staff are regulators, but a lot of times we're trying to educate before, and that's why education is one of our values. And so what are you passionate about? What do you care about? And so that's something that's really important for you to look at and align it with the company values when you're looking and researching those companies, and see if it does align. Does the company offer roles you are qualified for? So once you kind of decide, like, I really want to work for, I think Ford was the company that was put up there, but you want to work for Ford? That's awesome. Like, how many roles are they offering? I know Kayleen and I, we are in a space of there's one of me, there's one Ashley, there's one role. So anybody who's listening right now who's like, I want to do what Ashley does at MDARD would not have an opportunity at this point. I know Kayleen, you're one of, what is it, 5 maybe? 4?
I am like the one me in my division.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are maybe 4 or 5 of us, depending on how you want to count some people, but
Yeah.
that have a similar type job, you know, within a division, you know, with their subject.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, you want to understand, like, are they offering roles that you're qualified for? And as you're networking, you can ask those questions. You know, how many of these roles are available? How many people are out there? What does their annual report say? I really like this as a research strategy because that's going to tell you a lot about whether you're going to align with that company. Can you find the annual report? If you can find it, how transparent is it? Is it saying a lot? Do you agree with the direction of the company? Is it something that makes sense to you? And that's all going to play in your favor when you're interviewing and networking, because if you agree and you love the way the company's going, they're going to know it. They're going to believe you. If you don't agree and you try to fake it, they're going to see right through that. And so really you have to find those kind of pieces that you align with in those companies. And then you start to really hit into those companies as you're working towards it. So this is Kaylee's slide. I'm going to throw it to you, Kaylee.
Yeah, so not only do you want to think about, the values of a particular company or organization, nonprofit, et cetera, that you happen to be looking at, but also you want to refine kind of what matters to you, and what do you want to do, and who do you want to be in your particular role. So here I just tried to make this wordle of all the things that we do, as an educator or as an academic. And it's like, which one of those pieces do you want to lift up, and do you want to continue to do, and which ones it's like, maybe we'll throw that one over here, because it's not your favorite, and it's not like what you want to pick up and continue to move forward with. But we have so many skills as academics that are marketable out there. You just really want to focus in on exactly what you want to do and how exactly you want to move forward. And that was one of my key strategies when I was figuring out what exactly I wanted to do next. Because I know that I wanted to get out of academia and try something new, but where that led me, I was completely open to. It's just like, I just want a new path. And, in that new path is like, I still, wanted to write, and I still wanted to collaborate, and I still wanted to research, and, all those other different parts and pieces. So really, refining exactly what you want to look for will be very helpful, as, you are searching wherever you want to search for that next step or for that new opportunity.
Right. Well, I'm so sorry if you hear my dog bark in the background. I'm not going to mute again because I feel like when I mute and I come back on, I'm not able to be heard. So, but this is really just some ways to track your search. Many of you have probably already done this, but just creating a spreadsheet for companies and really staying on that, is a really great way to track your search. And then actually creating a separate spreadsheet for yourself. So the first one would really include like the company name, the contact name, the values that they maybe have that you align with, application status, interview status, compensation plans, like anything else that you feel could be important for you to know about the company. And usually people are right on target with this. Like they've got a spreadsheet. Maybe you all already have a spreadsheet, but what I don't see very often is tracking a visual or a spreadsheet for your own brand. So tracking your experiences, tracking your stories, tracking your values, tracking your skills, tracking the things that you feel like you've learned from different experiences. I always say, like, you don't have to have been paid to have an experience. I paid to go to Ecuador and have that experience, and yet I can use stories from that all the time, especially when I'm thinking about, because I do a little bit of work in the language access piece here, and we have a foreign language training track and program that I facilitate. And so I do end up tapping into some of those skills. Another piece where I tap into those skills is the diversity, equity, inclusion piece, right? And thinking about that. And so I would track that. I would have tracked that if I had, which I never did. I should have. But if I had a spreadsheet that was tracking my brand, I would have put that in there because I learned so many great things at that experience. So having those two pieces in place are really important.
And I just wanted to follow up with that with just some like quick tips that I found really helped me with my own job journey, as well as When I talk to some of my other, peers and friends and colleagues in terms of where they're going or how they got to where they are, these themes seem to keep coming up. So just wanted to share. So the first thing is always to just keep refining exactly how you are reaching out, and how you are presenting your brand or yourself, or whatever the case is, and just, as I said, just go through that trial and error process. So obviously, if you get feedback, or you get a call back, or you get a chance to interview, or whatever the case is, that something there works, and it's always good to capitalize on that and to learn from that, and to continue to move forward with that. And just as a quick example of that, I was talking to a friend not too long ago, and she had an interview where this organization wanted to hear her story of her research. So her background was, obviously in, English and, writing and things like that. So when we hear story, we think narrative, and, it's like how, I personally moved, throughout, my, the process of, putting this item together, and that whole story. You have the beginning, middle, and end, and all the things. But actually, what they really wanted, and what they told her later, because they thought that they were clear the first time, is that with story, they wanted to hear more about her research methodology, and who exactly she read, and all the sort of things that went into her research. And it's like, oh, that's a completely different thing. So just making sure to keep an eye out for those type of cues. Also bookmarking particular sites, or signing up for listservs, and whatever sort of watch lists. I know we do that here at MDARD. We have our watch list, and if there are particular topics that you are interested in, Ashley will send you an email like when some of those job opportunities come up. Or if you look on our NeoGov site, and this is also similar for other sites, you can check those areas of interest, and if like anything is connected to what you're interested in, it will send you that job posting like when it gets posted. So that's always helpful, so you don't have to continue to scroll through everything, and always look yourself. Sometimes it can come to you. And after a while, there were certain organizations that I was very interested in, so I would specifically look at their sites first. So again, that bookmarking is very helpful. Also, with some of my colleagues, they found that switching their status on LinkedIn, so kind of connecting back to that from our first presentation, switching that to open to network, really does kind of work, and it really gets you out there. And they had a lot more people reach out, and a lot more questions, and a lot of other recruiters or whatever asking for resumes. So it's surprisingly useful. So just wanted to throw that out there, and always just to continue to be persistent. I mean, before I got my current job, I probably wrote 80 applications for all different businesses across all different things, and 20 of them were probably here at the state of Michigan before I got this particular job. And I have another friend, she is trying to get a job at the federal level. So I think she put in about 120 applications, because sometimes it just takes so long for things to go through their particular channels. So just always looking for that next opportunity, and just making sure to move with that, and always taking that chance is always good too.
So really,